Hey everybody, it's Mrs. Montague here, and we have made it to Unit 4, Lesson 4, the Variables Make assignment. So let's go ahead and scroll down here to Lesson 4 in Unit 4. This is Variables Make. So as I mentioned in a couple videos prior, I believe, if we are doing a code-heavy unit, Code.org always sets it up as an explore, an investigate, a practice, and then a make assignment. So this is the last variables specific lesson before we jump into conditionals. All right, in every make assignment, they give you a sample app, and then you have to write the code to make the app work. So our sample app lives on bubble number 1 here. And for this particular project, we are going to be creating all of the code to make this photo liker app function how it should. All right, so we want to go ahead and explore this sample app. We want to try all the buttons and add a comment to the picture. And then we'll determine all the answers to these questions. So let's go ahead and run the app. All right, we've got a photo up here. It doesn't look like there's anything we can do with the photo. All right, but we have a thumbs down button here. All right, when I click that, it looks like it changed my likes to a -1 instead of a 0. And then I have a thumbs up button, which changes my likes back to 0. If I keep clicking it, right, it increases my likes count. All right, then we have the comment box here. We have a comment that says, "Oh my God, so cute." And then we have this opportunity to put in a new comment. Okay, so we can say, "Cutest kitten ever." Ooh, if I can spell that right. Okay, and then I can click on the blue comment button. And it looks like our comment gets added to this list of comments over here under the picture. So there's a couple different things happening. All right, so what does this app do? It lets us keep track of likes and dislikes on a photo, and it lets us comment on a photo, right? So the inputs, I would say, would be either clicking on the thumbs down, clicking on the thumbs up, or entering a new comment. And then the output is showing us our likes if we click on the thumbs up or thumbs down, and also showing us the comments that are added to the photo. So those are all the outputs. And one piece of information that we know we need to store in a variable, let's say our like count, right? So we have our like count that can either go up or down depending on the selection that we make, either the thumbs up or the thumbs down button, okay? So that kind of answers those questions. This is the sample app. So it's a working version of the app that you can explore and reference back as much as you need to. All right, once you get over to bubble number 2, that is where you are going to start actually writing the code. So it starts you out with just 2 comments to create and assign values to your variables and then add your event handlers, okay? So you have an activity guide to go along with this, and it also provides you a checklist up here in your instruction panel to make sure that you have everything you need. So you need to make sure you create your event handlers, all of your on events. You need to make sure you have your variables, and it tells you specifically have variables to store the number of likes and comments, and have variables that are named clearly and understandably. Okay. The event handlers need to have the variables being updated inside of them. Your output needs to correctly display the number of likes and total comments, and a sound plays when different buttons are clicked. Make sure you don't have any errors present in your code, and that comments are used to explain the purpose and function of all of your on events. Okay, so that is your different things that you are going to need here up in your instruction panel. Okay, so you can reference back to that checklist if you need to, but I'm going to minimize that instruction panel for now so we can see the full workspace as we get started on this app. Before we get started on the code, let's take a look at the activity guide to make sure that we are doing everything that we need to do to get a 100 on this assignment. All right, so your goal is to write the code to make the photo liker app. You've been giving all of the screen elements and have comments to help you design your program. All right, so you're going to try using the app in step 1. That's bubble 1 that we already looked at, right? So try it all. Make sure you understand what's happening with the app itself. All right, and then step 2 before we start coding is to plan this out. All right, so you're going to fill in these tables for each event handler that you need to create, right? So we know that we have the down button, we have the up button, and we have the comment button. All right, so all of those are on events that are going to be in our program. So what happens when I click on that up button, right? Explain what happens with that on event. What happens when I click on the down button, right? Explain what happens when those on events are actually engaged. And then we have a table for all of the variables that you need. So on the activity guide, they only give you 2 rows to put in variables. I actually use 3 variables when I create this program. One thing I say to my class with a really creepy, unfortunate, old-timey saying is that there are multiple ways to skin a cat. Not my phrase. Don't hold me to it. All right. But that is a classic phrase, multiple ways to skin a cat, just to basically say that there are multiple ways to accomplish this task. Okay. So I use 3 variables. You probably can do this with 2 variables. You don't necessarily need to have another variable. But 3 variables works for me. So whatever works for you, do that, right? It doesn't have to all look exactly like what I'm doing. As long as it works, that's what matters at the end of the day, all right? With everything we do with coding, there are multiple ways to solve the problem, all right? So it's not necessarily it's my way or the highway. If you find something that works for you that's different from what I'm doing, that's great, right? That means that you're learning. All right, so make sure that you record the variables that you're using. Again, I have 3. All right, then we have step 3 down here to start writing the code. All right, so you already know what on events that you need. You already know what variables you need before you even start writing, right? Because you filled out your activity guide. Okay, so you want to create all the variables from your table. Give your variables the starting values that you need using the assignment operator equals. All right, create your blank event handlers for each screen element on your table. And then write the code to make the up button work and test it out. So if it's working correctly, the likes count should go up by 1 every time you click it. Write the code to make the down button work, test it. Write the code to make the comment button work and test it. Okay, make sure you're using your debugging skills to identify unexpected behavior and fix any issues that you might encounter in your program. Talk to a friend, ask me, Google it. There's multiple ways to solve your problems. All right, make sure you are adding comments as you go to explain what each event handler is doing. There is a help and tips tab, so you can look at those programming patterns for variables. And then we have these extension ideas. So usually you only want to do these extension ideas if you finish the base app, everything's working. As far as the base app goes, then you can work on some extension ideas if you have more time. Usually people have more time with this one because it's a pretty simple app, especially if you follow along with our coding practice bubbles from our last lesson. All right, but our extension ideas are to set the text in the new comment to be blank after the comment has been added. So it basically clears out any new comments that you add and is ready for an additional comment. And then to add sounds to each button, right? So each button click should make a sound, would be an extension. All right, so if you get finished with the base app, everything's working how it should, go ahead and do one or both of those extension ideas to make your app even better. All right, then it gives you the rubric here to make sure that you have everything that you need. And finally, you have step 5, which is the create performance task writing practice. So all of your make assignments have a writing practice on here. If you are planning on taking AP level computer science principles. So basically the writing is to give you practice for what you will need to submit for your AP exam. The AP exam has a multiple choice test, and it also has a project. So the multiple choice test is worth 70% of your grade, and the project is worth 30% of your grade on the AP test. So this is just giving you practice. Even if you take Computer Science 2 with me, The second half of this course, it is a year-long course. Computer Science 2, the final project for that is basically exactly what the project is for the AP test. So you're still going to be doing the project portion. So it's useful for you to get this writing practice, whether you're doing AP or not, because you're still going to have to write a paper essentially for the project that you create if you're taking Computer Science 2 with me. All right, but anyway, for this particular one, our variables make, we have the question, explain how the design of your program's user interface supports its functionality. So in your response, you want to describe one feature of the interface and how it helps users interact with the program. All right, so you can focus, right? We know we have 3 buttons that accept input, right? So pick one of those on events, right? And explain basically what it does. How does it help the user interact with the program? If I click the down button, right, it's keeping track of those down votes and displaying the number of likes or dislikes on the screen. All right, so make sure you are answering that question in full sentences. You will probably need at least 2 sentences to fully describe what feature of the user interface is and how it is helping users interact, right? At least 2 sentences, maybe a little bit more. You want to be as detailed as possible with these responses. All right, and that is it for the activity guide. All right, so just make sure that you have this filled out and you will submit it with your app at the end of class once you are finished with everything you need to put in there. All right, so now that we've gone over the activity guide, we are ready to start coding. So we have 2 comments here. The first one says create and assign values to your variables. Okay, so in this particular app, I'm personally going to use 3 variables, and I will explain why here in a second. The first variable I'm going to use is going to be called likes. Okay, because we know we want to keep track of the number of likes or dislikes that we have in this app. Okay, so I'm going to set likes. When the app isn't running, our likes count should be set to 0 initially. So we can say our variable likes has been created and we want to set our initial value of likes to 0. Okay, I'm going to continue having these yellow triangles over my variables until I actually call them somewhere in the program, because this is just saying it's a variable that we have defined, but we have not used it anywhere in the program yet. Okay, so we'll just ignore those yellow triangles for the moment. All right, but now we have a variable to keep track of likes and dislikes. One thing I do see a lot of students do on this app is they create a variable for likes and then they also create a variable for dislikes. And the reason that that's not going to work, okay, if I create a variable for likes and start it as 0, every time I click on the thumbs up button, it's going to increase that count by 1, right? If we had a dislikes variable, it would decrease our count by 1 from a variable that was also set to 0. But at no point in time would that let me display the grand total of likes and dislikes all together as 1. So we're just going to do one variable called likes to keep track of that number. And that one single number is going to either go up or down depending on the thumbs up or thumbs down click, right? So we only need one variable to keep track of that. I am going to have 2 variables, however, to keep track of comments. So my first variable for comments is going to be called all comments. And notice that I have used this block that I want to declare the variable and also assign it an initial value for this all comments, okay? Because we have a comment that's already living in here before we even start running the app, which is, oh my God, so cute. So I want to make sure that this same comment displays once I start running the app. That's already a comment that's there. We need to make sure that that comment is still there when we start running it. All right, so our initial value of all comments is going to be set to OMG, so with 4 O's, cute, and an exclamation mark, okay, in quotation marks. All right, so all comments is currently equal to this comment that we have in here. All right, and then I'm going to set a variable as well for new comment. All right, And that variable, I'm just going to declare the variable, okay? I don't want to assign it a value yet because we don't know what that value is going to be yet. We don't know what the person is going to type into the app. All right. So the reason that I have all comments and new comments is so we can use that fancy string concatenation to make sure that our comments are creating that running list of comments. So if you think back to the variables practice lesson, I believe bubble 7, when we had the reminders list, right? We had a variable for all reminders, and then we had a variable for new reminders, and it was making a running list of reminders for us. Okay, that's doing the exact same thing, but this time we're working with comments instead. All right, and then I believe it was our encouragement app from the variables practice lesson as well. That last section that we did in the part 2 video, that also had an example of you had all encouragement and then your new encouragement that was being added. So it was creating that running list of encouragements. Okay, so we can accomplish this with our 3 variables that we have here. That's all that we need. All right, so then we need to make sure and we add our event handlers. Okay, so I'm actually going to change this comment, and this is going to be the event handler to start us off with for the dislike button. All right, and the button should reduce our likes by 1. Okay, so that is what this on event is going to do. So let's go ahead and get our on event block in here. All right, so this is when we click on the down button, I believe it's called. If we hover over it, it tells us, yep, the down button, and then we also have the up button. All right, so when we click on our down button, it says we need to reduce the number of likes by 1. Okay, so that tells us that we can set our variable to reduce by 1. All right, this is our variable counter pattern. Okay, so my likes count is going to reduce by 1. So I take whatever is currently stored in likes and subtract 1. All right, so our likes is now equal to likes minus 1. All right, we can see that yellow triangle over line 2 went away because we have now called that variable somewhere in our program. So we are good to go there. All right, but now we also need to make sure this displays on the screen, right? So we have reduced the number of likes by 1, but we need a way to display it. So we are probably going to want to do a set property. All right, and our likes displays right here, and our like count, I don't know if it's like counter, all right, but let's look what we have. Our like counter output is what that's called. All right, so our like counter output is going to be set to text, and I will again want it to display exactly like they have it displayed here. So I need the word likes with a colon and then a space, and then I need to record whatever is stored in our likes variable. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to have is in quotation marks, I'm going to put the word likes with the semicolon, or sorry, the colon and a space. All right, so that gets that word to display on the screen. All right, and then I'm going to add to that a call to the likes variable, right? So I'm just calling whatever value is stored in that variable. So if we start it at 0, right, it's going to just display at 0. If we start it at 1 and then we do a dislike, it's going to display 0 on the screen. It's going to display whatever value we have assigned to that likes variable. All right, at this point, we can actually test it and see if our down button works. So I'm going to go ahead and add a watcher down here for likes. Okay, when the program's not running, it's undefined. All right, but when I run the program, all right, we initially get the value of 0 for likes because on line 2, I set likes to be equal to 0. All right, as soon as I click on the dislike button here, all right, we can see that our likes count in our watchers changed to -1, and it also changed to -1 on the screen because of that set property. And we still have the word likes with the colon and the space to make it look nice on the screen and tell us exactly what it is we are displaying right here. All right, so we know that our down button works. All right, so let's go ahead and do our next on event. All right, so we need to add another comment. So I just like to switch to text mode to add comments. It just makes it easier in my opinion. All right, so I'm going to add a comment. So this is now the like button increases likes by 1, right? Because if we say that we like it, it should go up by 1. All right, so we know we're going to need another on event here. All right, this is going to be our up button. So when we click on our up button, all right, then we are going to increase our like count by 1. So again, we know that we need to update the value of our variable. So we're going to assign a variable value, pull that block in. And again, we're dealing with our likes variable. All right, and this time we are going to take the current value stored in likes and add 1 to it instead of subtracting 1 to it. All right, so likes is equal to likes plus 1. All right, so it's keeping that running count of how many likes and or dislikes we've had. All right, and then with this on event, we also are going to need to have that set property to create our likes counter output to display. All right, so I'm going to again just really quickly switch to text mode because the line that we need to set that property is exactly what we have in line 9. All right, so I'm going to copy line 9 and then we will paste line 9 in our like button. All right, or up button on event rather. So now we have the same set property to still display that number of likes on the screen, right? Because we don't have a variable for dislikes and a separate variable for likes, we're just displaying that same variable both times, okay? So now let's go ahead and test it before we move on again. All right, we know that our down button was working, right? It's reducing our number of likes. Now our up button should increase our number of likes based on the current, right? So it goes from -5 to -4 the first time I click it. And as I continue clicking it, it's going to continue increasing that like count by 1 each time. All right, so we know that our down button and our up button are both working and we are good to go there. All right, so let's finally go ahead and make our comments work. So this is arguably the hardest part of this one, but it's not too bad if you reference back to your variables practice code from the final bubble, the bubble with the ABC options, as well as bubble 7 with our reminders list, okay? So you can reference back to that code to see exactly what you need to do, but we'll also go over it here. All right, again, I'm going to just really quickly switch to text mode so I can add in another comment. And this time is going to add new comments with the new comment input box, okay? So that's this box right here. I'm going to reset the app, right? This is new comment input. I believe it's called something like that. All right, so we're going to show blocks again. So this should be our last on event. We only need the 3 on events because we only have 3 buttons that we're working with. All right, so we're going to put the on event down here. All right, this is going to be our comment button. Okay, so when we click on the comment button, all right, we are going to add our new comments to our current comment. Okay, so that's why we've got our new comment variable and our all comments variable. Okay, so if you remember back from bubble 7 when we did the running list of reminders, all right, the first thing that we need to do is set the value of new comments. So when I type something into this new comment input box, I need that to be the value that's stored in my new comment variable, right? I created a variable just for that reason. Okay, so our new comment variable is going to be updated to get the text, right? Remember, we have that new code block with variables to get text from an input box on the screen, okay? So we are going to get the text from that new comment input, all right? So it's going to pull whatever text we put in there and assign it to this variable called new comment, all right? So we are getting the value of that input box. And we can just see an example of this. Nothing is going to display on the screen at this point, but if we add our new comment variable here and I run this program, If I put in anything random, so let's just say test and click on the button, right? We have the variable assignment already in here. So in our watchers, we can see that the word test has been assigned to that variable because that's what I typed into the box and then clicked the button. Okay, at this point, it has not added it to our existing list of comments, so we need to get it doing that next. All right, so let's reset the app. And we know we are going to need to update our all comments variable as well, right? Because we need our new comments to display with the comments that are already there. All right, so we're going to do another update variable here to assign a new value, this time to all comments. All right, so all comments needs to be equal to the current value of all comments, right? We still want to keep the comments that we have in there. All right, so it's the current value of all comments plus, then we're going to add our new comment to it. If I can actually spell it right based on the variable that I set. All right, so we're going to have our current value of all comments, and then we are going to add on the new comment. Okay, so again, nothing is displaying here at this point, but if I add all comments to my watchers list and run the program, okay, we can see we have the initial value of, oh my God, so cute, being assigned to all of our comments, right? And then right now it's undefined for new comment because we haven't typed anything in yet. So let me just put in, let's say, love it with an exclamation mark, and then I'm going to click on the button. Again, nothing's displaying on the screen yet because we don't have any set properties. But now we see that we have the new comment, love it. And then we have all comments value is being set to, oh my God, so cute. And then right after that, we have love it, which is the new comment that I added. So it is adding those together. However, we can see there's no space between the word cute and the exclamation mark and then the word love of the next comment. So what we need to do is use our string concatenation to put a line break between these two comments, right? Because we want all of the comments to be on their own separate lines so they're not all clumped together and makes it easier to read. Okay, so we need to use that new command that we know, the \n, and that needs to be in quotation marks. All right, so I'm going to have, oops, that's not the right spot. I'm going to have all comments is equal to all comments plus a line break, and then we are going to add the new comment value to that. All right, so that should make it so each comment is on its own line. We can again reset it and run the app, and then when we put in our test comment here of love it, all right, so it's not going to show the line breaks in the watchers, but it does show that there is now space between there, which will be the line break once we actually have it properly displaying on the screen. All right, so we do have some change there. All right, so let's go ahead and reset the program, and then we just need to get our set properties on here, right, to make sure that we are displaying this information correctly. So we're going to have a set property. All right, we know it's going to be a set property because we need to display something on the screen. And this is our all comments output, I believe is what it's called, where these comments are displaying. All right, so our all comments output box. All right, we need to display text. All right, and the text that we need to display is whatever's stored in all comments. Whoops, if I can spell comments right. All right, so the text is displaying whatever value we have stored in our all comments variable, right? Because we are using line 21 here to assign all of those comments to the one variable with line breaks in between them. So then we just need a way to display it, which is our set property here on line 22. Okay, so now this should be displaying whatever value is stored in all comments when we run this app. All right, so we have our initial likes, and then we have our comment existing here. Oh my God, so cute. So what I'm going to do is add our comment, love it, and click on the comment button. All right, and now you can see, now that it's displaying on the screen, we have our first comment, and then a line break, and then our second comment. All right, if I get rid of this, and let's say cutest kitten ever is our next comment, again, it is going to have a line break between the last comment that we had and then the new comment that we put in. right? And that is all happening on line 21, that value that we are assigning to the all comments variable that we call to display in this box. Okay? All right. So the last thing that we need to do here, there are some extension ideas on the activity guide that we went over, if you remember those. All right. So the 2 extension ideas that they had was to clear the box for new comments. So right here in this box where we are inputting our new comments, all right, our first extension idea was to clear this box once we hit the button. All right, so it takes the new comment, puts it over in the comments output, and then is a blank input box for us to put in another comment without having to backspace it. Okay, and again, if you remember, we did this in the variables practice bubbles, right? Those specific bubbles that I keep referencing, right? We did this exact thing, so we just need to do that again. All right, so we're going to bring in another set property this time. All right, this time the set property is going to be for this new comment input box. Okay, so new comment input. And this one has to be the very last thing that happens in this on event, right? Because we put in our text, we assign that text to the new comment, and then we assign the new comment to the existing comments, then we display those comments, and then we clear the box, right? Because remember, everything in an on event is going to happen in order. So if we were to put this set property at the beginning of this, it probably isn't going to work right because it's going to clear whatever is in this box before it assigned the value from that box to the variable, right? So we need to make sure that this does not clear that comment until the variables have already been assigned, right? Okay, so our new comment input text is going to be equal to blank. And if you remember from bubble 7, we just did a set of empty quotation marks. So that should clear out whatever value is in there. So let's go ahead. We'll test that part of it. Okay. So if I put in the comment, love it, this time, love it should appear over here in our comments, and it should disappear from this box and be ready for the new comment. Perfect, right? We added it to our comments list, and then we have an empty box, so I can click over here and start typing in my next comment without having to reset the app to clear that box out. All right, so it clears it each time we add a new comment. So that's pretty awesome. All right, so then the other extension that we want to do for this app, ooh, excuse me. Choking on air. Okay, so the other extension that we want to do for this app is to have a play sound that plays each time we click on any of the buttons, right? So we just need to add a play sound to each of our on events. Okay, so we will have a play sound. So it will let me drag it over here. Come on. All right, so we'll have a play sound for our down button, a play sound for our up button, and a play sound for our new comment button. Okay, so we want a sound to play for each of those. All right, you can explore through their sound library. You can make your own sound, however you want to do it. I'm just going to leave mine set to the default. That is perfectly okay with me. All right, so we have a sound that plays for each of our buttons. Now, when we run it this time, we should be able to hear the sounds. Okay, so we got a sound playing. We click on our up and down, and then when we put in our test comment, we have a sound that plays when we click on our comment button. All right, so the sound is playing, all of our variables are being updated, and all of that information is being output to our screen. And then we have our comments showing for each of these on events to tell us what each section of the code is doing. All right, again, go back and look at that checklist. Just double check that you have everything you need. Make sure that you have your activity guide filled out, and then you are all ready to submit this app. Easy peasy. If you have any questions, let me know. And otherwise, I will see you for the next section of this unit on conditionals.